India is unlikely to give Apple special incentives to start making iPhones in that country. That's according to a government official who said India cannot change the rules for a single company. Bloomberg editor-at-large Corey Johnson joins us now from San Francisco with more. Corey, I wonder if Apple is likely to reconsider its strategy in light of this. Perhaps you can tell us a bit more about the degree to which Apple is prioritizing expansion into India right now.
Yeah, look, it's a very big priority for Apple, not least because they're lacking other places to grow into. Their Chinese market seems to be rapidly saturated and facing increased competition there in the smartphone arena. Domestic markets in the U.S. and developed markets like Europe also seeing such slow growth or even negative growth that would be shrinkage for Apple, that the company is very focused on getting into India. Of course, it would like to do so more cheaply, but it appears to be pushing ahead with plans. Of course, India could change the rules for a single company if they wanted to. The statement is patently untrue. They certainly could change those rules, but have decided not to. And they think that India recognizes that Apple needs India much more than India needs Apple.
And Corey, what do you anticipate will be the outcome? I mean, is there leverage here on either side?
No, I think this looks like India's got a very strong hand to play here. I mean, if you look at internationally, all of Apple's the regions where the company has its business, it's very big in Europe, it's very big in the U.S. But China was a market that had added kind of late, and if you look at those numbers, you can actually see that China is a sizable portion of Apple's revenues. I think we have a chart that shows those numbers, and it would show you just how important China is for this business. Apple was able to add in China and have a great benefit from that mix in that Asia Pacific. It's expected that China itself is about 24% of that. These are numbers for fiscal year 2016. But adding India into that could give them a lot of growth. Already what we understand from outside sources outside of Apple is that Apple's seen about 50% growth without manufacturing India, just through secondhand sellers and so on. So India could be a very important market for them going forward.
Give us the history, Corey, if you would, about how India has these norms regarding local sourcing, these limits that are in place, these government limits.
Yeah, so what's interesting is that India's got these very strong rules, and in the context of what Donald Trump's been talking about, the president-elect here in the United States, about manufacturing in the country, India has similar rules that are going to mandate that. According to IDC, the Indian smartphone market has been dominated by Samsung because Samsung's willing to make things there. Apple has a de minimis presence in that country, even though it's growing rapidly. They recognize that competitors like Samsung and Lenovo are growing so fast in India. They want to be part of that. They want to stay ahead of Xiaomi and others. But Apple's always focused, I shouldn't say always, for the last 20 years or so, Apple's been a lot more focused on profits, not just growing that top line. That's why it has become such a powerful business. In administrations past, before Steve Jobs returned, they went after market share, they went after top line numbers without seeming to care about the bottom line, nearly running the company into the ground. And I think that memory is still important for the people at Apple when they think about the markets that they want to get into.
Do we have much information on the appetite for Apple products that there might be in India, for example, if they were a little bit cheaper or a little bit easier to get?
Yeah, I think I'm struck by a lot of the things that we hear about that market and the way it compared to China. When we were told China wouldn't want to pay it for an iPhone, they needed a cheaper version, they needed a smaller screen. In fact, the biggest, most expensive screens that had that iconic Apple design and logo and everything else were the things that sold the very best in China. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the same in India, where Apple poaches the best part of the market where the most profits lie, and can use that, especially in advance of the 10-year anniversary of the iPhone, which is expected to be a major release for the next set of iPhones or iPhone, if it's a singular unit, and getting into that Indian market. We also see contract manufacturers, Foxconn and others, starting to set up shop in India, perhaps for Apple, perhaps for their competitors. But Apple also listing a lot of jobs for hire in India, managing production, managing some manufacturing that's slated to happen there in India. So it seems that regardless of whether or not they get tax benefits, it's all systems go for Apple manufacturing in India to be in that Indian market inside.